Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Definitely.
So it's this English learning podcast called Daily Money Briefing.
Huh. Interesting. Okay.
It's actually pretty cool. You get the
Yeah.
financial news and kind of a language lesson all in one.
Oh, I like that. Sort of killing two birds with one stone.
Exactly. Today, we're looking at sources covering two really different responses to global challenges.
That's right. On one side, we have these escalating geopolitical flashpoints.
And on the other, some pretty ambitious economic lifelines.
Exactly.
Our mission, as always, is to pull out those key nuggets, give you that shortcut to being well-informed.
And maybe see things from, a couple of new angles.
Yeah, connect the dots on how nations are navigating these, complex waters.
From military brinkmanship to really bold economic moves, it's quite a contrast.
Okay, let's unpack the first situation, showing tensions in the Middle East are really at a boiling point.
Mm-hmm.
President Donald Trump reportedly poised for a military strike against Iran.
But holding off for now.
Holding off for now, yeah.
Yeah.
Seems to be weighing some last-minute diplomacy, even though the U.S. military is apparently ready to go.
Okay.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Israel recently intensified attacks on Iranian nuclear facilities.
Intensified how?
Significantly. We're talking over 40 fighter jets, more than 100 munitions used,
Wow.
targeting critical plutonium sites near Tehran and also a weapons development center in Natanz.
So this wasn't just a minor skirmish. This was a major coordinated operation.
Exactly. Aimed right at the heart of their nuclear program.
That really does raise the stakes dramatically. It signals a dangerous shift. Could easily pull others in.
And the response?
Iran retaliated. And this is concerning striking Israeli civilian infrastructure.
Civilian.
Yeah.
Including hospitals.
That suggests a willingness to cross lines we perhaps haven't seen recently.
Makes de-escalation much harder.
Much harder. And it really brings up that critical question, how long can this level of tension last without some kind of catastrophic mistake?
A chilling thought. The U.S. military wasn't just, prepared.
Okay.
It apparently put all forward deployed assets in the region on a, get this, 48-hour deployment window, basically just waiting for the president's green light.
Yeah.
The precision strike capability was, on the table.
But President Trump, while holding back, what going on there behind that seeming hesitation?
A deliberate, active, maybe even kind of desperate push to exhaust every single non-military option first.
Yeah.
Okay, let's shift gears completely. From that military brinkmanship
Yes.
to South Korea, a really striking counterpoint. They're tackling challenges with ambitious economic measures.
Right, a totally different playbook.
First up, there's a second supplementary budget just this year. Direct stimulus.
How to...
Every single citizen gets a consumption coupon worth 250,000 won. Yeah, part of their livelihood recovery support. And for a family of 4, that's 1,000,000 won.
That's not insignificant.
Not at all.
And it feels like a very deliberate choice, doesn't it? Stimulating from the bottom up through household spending.
Rather than just corporate bailouts or tax cuts.
It's a statement about where they think recovery comes from.
And crucially, these aren't just cash, right?
Distributed how?
Via local currencies, prepaid cards, or even credit card points.
Ah, so they can potentially guide the spending a bit.
Seems like it. Plus incentives like 10% refunds on energy-efficient appliances, discounts on entertainment.
Okay, so nudging behavior.
And there's more. A second round is planned.
Yeah.
Another 100,000 won, potentially for 90% of the population.
Wow. So they're really doubling down on this consumer-led stimulus.
It appears so. But that's not all on the economic front. There's also a massive debt relief plan.
Debt relief. Tell me more.
Starting next year, it targets long-term, small-scale defaulters.
Define long-term and small scale.
Okay, so people in default for over 7 years, owing less than 50 million won, they could get up to 80% debt forgiveness.
80%.
And in some cases, even full write-offs.
That's huge. Who benefits?
Potentially 1.13 million people. The total debt write-off could exceed 16 trillion won.
16 trillion. That's an enormous figure for household debt relief.
It is. And small business owners aren't left out. There's help via something called the New Start Fund, up to 90% principal reduction for them.
Well, it's fascinating. Clearly aimed at helping vulnerable groups get back on their feet.
Absolutely.
But you have to ask, what are the potential downsides? I assume there's criticism.
There is the moral hazard.
Right. The idea that forgiving debt might encourage others not to repay in the future.
Exactly. And also, fairness, what about those who struggled but did manage to repay their debts?
It's a classic dilemma with any kind of large-scale forgiveness program.
It really is.
Yeah.
But what's the government's likely rationale then? Why take that risk?
Well, the argument usually is that widespread debt, especially after shocks, acts like a massive anchor on the economy,
Dragging down spending.
dragging down spending, investment, everything. So by removing that burden, you free people up. You potentially jumpstart consumption and prevent a really long-term slump.
So it's seen as a kind of necessary evil, a reset.
Kind of a calculated risk, perhaps.
Hmm.
Believing the broader economic benefit outweighs the potential moral hazard and fairness issues.
So putting it all together,
Mm-hmm.
from the hair-trigger tensions in the Middle East
Yeah.
to South Korea's really bold, almost experimental economic interventions,
Mm-hmm.
these sources paint a picture of a world actively grappling with huge challenges.
But in such starkly different ways, different tools, different philosophies.
Understanding these distinct responses, I think, really helps us grasp how nations are trying to shape their futures.
And how interconnected everything is, even when the approaches seem worlds apart. It definitely makes you wonder, which path proves more sustainable or effective down the line.
And at what cost? Well, we hope this deep dive has given you some surprising facts, maybe some new perspectives on these global flashpoints and economic lifelines.
Definitely lots to think about.
What stood out most to you from today's insights? Thanks for diving deep with us today.